So guys, good afternoon. So today I will do a spoiler-free review of the 2011 horror comedy Inbred, which is directed by Alex Chandon. So in this movie, four young offenders and their two carers travel to Mortlake in Yorkshire for a weekend of community service, and they end up fighting for their lives after a nasty encounter with the locals. The plot's a little similar to Wrong Turn 3, although in Wrong Turn 3 the director went out his way to make the characters very unlikable, so that you were actually rooting for them to get killed. In this case, only one of the characters, Dwight, would come into the very unlikable character. The other three are either likable or they're okay. So Inbred was shot in Thirsk in Yorkshire. The co-writer Paul Shrimpton lives there. The local councillor in the area, Derek Adamson, initially objected to the film because he was perceived about how the residents of Thirsk would be perceived by anybody who watched the film. He was also concerned about this fact, having watched Shrimpton's previous work, but after he learned that the film was going to be a comedy, he was a little more receptive and he eventually got on board with the idea. The pub in the film, which is very aptly named the Dirty Hole, is called the Bay Horse Inn in real life. Now in terms of characters, there are four offenders, there are two carers, and there's one lead antagonist who you would say are the main characters. Your four offenders are Tim, Sam, Dwight, and Zeb. So Tim is quite a shy and awkward boy. We do get a little bit of his backstory. It is needed for later in the movie. Tim was arrested for arson. He burned down his school. Sam is the only female offender in the film. She's quiet, she's unassuming, and I think she's a bit of an emo chick. Dwight, he is your typical lad, or a punk, whichever way you want to look at him. He's largely unpleasant, he's a bit of a bully boy, but he is occasionally entertaining, but he is that one character that you're probably rooting for to get killed. Zeb, we don't learn a lot about him. He is definitely more of a he's definitely more of a follower than a leader, and he does tend to follow Dwight's lead throughout the course of this film. You have two carers. There are Jeff and Kate. Jeff is that annoying person who wants to do everything by the book, and he does come across as quite irritating, and for the large part he doesn't really bond with Kate, his fellow carer, or any of the young offenders. Kate is a little more pragmatic and a little more feisty, and she's definitely that character that you find yourself rooting for. And the lead antagonist is the bartender Jim, who's very eccentric, who to start with is quite friendly to the offenders and to their carers. I think Jim will go into later, but Jim, the lead antagonist, was quite a strong character in this film. Now I'll do the positives of this film, the negatives, and then I will give it a score. So first, the positives. So Inbred is set in the UK countryside. The Yorkshire moors are beautiful. As somebody who's British, I really did enjoy the location. The film's almost like a British version of 2001 Maniacs. I don't think it was on the same level, I don't think it was quite as good, but I do appreciate the direction that it took, and I did enjoy that part of it. The film wasn't politically correct. It it did dare to be a little bit different, and at times it was quite funny. As I mentioned before, Jim, the bartender, the lead antagonist, was very charismatic. His character arc went from pretty regular bartender to an outright fruitcake. But I think in terms of the antagonists, he was the only one who really stood out, apart from I can't remember his name, but the fellow who carried around the otter. He was the oddball in a town full of oddballs. But Jim was definitely, I think he was definitely a good character. This film is gory. Even if you're somebody who likes gore, this film is definitely takes gore to another level. So if you're somebody who enjoys gore, then this will be for you. The one disclaimer I have to add in is that a lot of the gore is CGI. And definitely one of the last positives, I thought I knew how this movie was going to end. About 10-15 minutes from the end of the film, I thought I know exactly how this is going to play out. I know what's going to happen. I know who's going to survive, and the movie just took a different fork in the road. It did surprise me and it caught me a little off guard, so I definitely give credit for the ending. In terms of the negatives, some of these aren't strong negatives. Some of these it's just not for some horror fans. Number one is it's not a scary movie. This is not it's not gonna scare you, it's not gonna give you nightmares, it's not gonna mess with your head. It's not a scary movie at all. That's not a deal breaker for some people, but for some horror fans, that might just be a no-go. And relating to the next point is there's no real tension. Things go wrong pretty quickly, but there's no tension leading up to this. There's no real tension when the protagonists are trying to escape. You don't really feel on the edge of your seat at all, but once again, that's maybe not what the director was going for, and there are a lot of other good points about this film. The first two negatives may just be it's not going to be for some horror fans, and that's completely fine if that's what the director was trying to do. There are quite a few forgettable characters. You have probably Kate, who's one of the carers, and Tim, who's one of the offenders, as the only two characters who have any real arc. The others just tick along a little bit. Zed's death scene was creative, but the hoops that were down to secure him were not nearly tight enough, so you could see watching it that he could clearly escape. It was a gory and it was a creative death scene, but you could see that he could escape from underneath the hoops. Another one is, I would say, dumb decisions, like ridiculous decisions cost these people. Now this is not exclusive to Inbred. In most horror films that you watch, there are a lot of bad decisions made. In this case, for a group of people to travel in the middle of nowhere to the Yorkshire moors and then go out for the day to do 1 day of community service, and for nobody to take their phone with them is baffling. I could understand if the offenders had to leave their phones at home. I could get that, but for none of the carers to leave with their phones is just a baffling decision. And this is just a personal one, but for me, I thought the movie was quite long. I could find my interest waning at times, and some of the acting was average at best. On checking Wikipedia and checking other websites about this film, you can see that a lot of there weren't links to the actors who played these characters. It looks like the director did give a chance to some new and inexperienced actors. So in that case, fair play. It wasn't bad acting, but it was middle of the road. So my final thoughts on Inbred, like as a Brit who is living abroad, I really appreciated the setting. I enjoyed that. I loved the idea of a British version of Wrong Turn and 2001 Maniacs, and I also liked the ending. It wasn't what I expected. So for me, all in all, I would give it 6.5 out of 10. A lot of the criticisms I have are more out of personal preference and towards the movie itself. The lack of scares, the lack of tension, that's just my preference as a horror movie, that I do like to be on the edge of my seat. I do like tension, I do like build up. This movie was a comedy horror. It did have a lot of gore, so it did have some selling points, but on a personal level I would give it 6.5 out of 10. I also thought it was a little too long. The first kill wasn't until 46 minutes into the movie, so that was quite a long time, and especially as there wasn't that much of a storyline, it was quite a long time to build up to the first kill. I mean, I would say if you have Amazon Prime, give this movie a shot, or if you can stream this film somewhere else, give it a try. If you enjoy like maybe black comedy, if you enjoy gore, then this would definitely be for you. If you enjoy creative kills, this would be for you. If you're somebody who enjoys tension, who likes to be scared, or who likes to have a horror movie that'll mess with your head a little, this Inbred wouldn't be for you. But all in all, there are a lot of aspects about this film that I did enjoy. Some of the things I criticized the movie on are more personal preference than a criticism of the director and his vision. So yeah, I would recommend that you give Inbred a go. It was released 10 years ago and it did do the rounds at Fright Fest also. So guys, thank you very much for listening today, and I will try and put out another review in the next few days. Have a good day.